Sometime around 1981, Michael Jackson is making records. Off the Wall's already been a hit, but then he releases in 1982 the Thriller album, which goes on, of course, to be the greatest success of any album ever. That album was selling over 1 million copies a week for nearly 1 year. That's crazy. But since then, no one's making royalties like that. He got so big, he owned his own masters after this album started to sell. They got scared he would leave the label. And so what CBS Records did, they gave him half of every record sold. It was the biggest contract ever by any artist. He was the most popular artist, the best paid for 20 years straight. And that is history. Today, the world is totally different, except for one thing, the copyrights. And who owns them, and what they can do with them. And there are like two main rights. There's the sound recording rights, of course, the recording, and the composition, the melody, the rap, the producer, whatever that is. That's the composition. And these are two rights that expand out to even more rights. And so we got that covered. But suppose a pandemic comes up, and you can't get the guys together again to go back on tour. Now you're stuck. The weight of the world is on you now. You got to pay those bills and get everything going. But some guy on Wall Street comes up with an idea. They get a whole bunch of money and put it in one big bank fund. And what they want to do, they want to buy your copyrights. That's right, your catalog. Like by now, you've probably already heard of these artists selling their catalogs, like Lil Wayne. Now, Lil Wayne's unique because he had Drake and Nicki Minaj sign his contracts in the beginning of their careers. So he owned all those rights right there. And what he probably saw was just the publishing. He's still collecting money anyway. But it's a good deal. He gets $100 million. You got Justin Bieber doing $200 million. He still collects some royalties on that stuff. Plus, he's young. He can make more catalogs or more great songs to add to the old catalogs. It doesn't make a difference. What's happening here is cementing their payments and making sure they get paid. The real truth behind this is one thing.
20 million today or 25 million over a 30-year period. Which one?
I'm taking my money today.
That's all they do when they sell a catalog.
Now, what you got to do is protect yourself. If you're a beat maker, you're making beats, you want to be with these big artists, and you get a deal, you got to make sure what you're doing is clean and no one can come back and take royalties or say like, I did this or did that. For example, you hire a bass player or singer, you give him money. It's a work for hire contract. You make him sign the contract and you get a receipt for that, right? You want to have co-publishing. You work with someone else, co-publishing. You may want publishing for the whole thing. Control your rights through publishing. Also, you might want to write a song with someone. Have songwriter rights. That's important. Create your own 360 deal in case a company gives you one. You can give them one back. So when you do sign artists, you can have your deal the way you want it. And it's important to have a image contract for like videos. You don't want anybody to use your image in a video without your permission. Now, this is all cool. It's all good. I'm going to play a video next of how Jay-Z and them screwed up and a girl ended up getting the royalty rates because they didn't have a work for hire contract.
What we learned about copyright from a lawsuit deriving from a Jay-Z recording session. The plaintiff's name was Demi Aloha, and she was invited to the recording session as a friend of the producers. And while she was there, she started singing her own counter melody to the recording. They liked what she did, so they asked her to sing along. They recorded her, and later afterwards, they tried to negotiate something so that she could be on the record, but the negotiations broke down and they told her they'd find somebody else, a more established artist to sing. They didn't. They used her recording, and that's the chorus to Izahova. And she rejected a flat fee payment from them and instead took them to court, claiming that she was a joint author of the work. And what I find particularly fascinating about this lawsuit is that she declared herself an author of the compositional element, but also of the sound recording. And on a motion for summary judgment, there are three particular issues that I'm discussing here very briefly. Firstly, they argue that she didn't have enough originality for her own work to be copyrightable. It was not original enough expression. And the court denied summary judgment on that. They said that a short vocal phrase might be copyrightable, and the fact that it's a counter melody doesn't take it away from that. It could be a derivative work of the original. So that becomes a jury question. The second was work for hire. The defendants claimed ownership as a work for hire. They claimed that she was an employee working within the scope of her employment. And remember, they couldn't argue that it was a specially commissioned work because that would require a writing. So they argued the employee argument, and that failed on nearly every level. The court found that all the elements weighed against there being an employee relationship, that she had the right to control her own vocal phrase, that they didn't have the right to assign other projects, and they did not in any way treat her as an employee. So that essentially also became a jury question. But the defendants did win on the joint authorship issue. The defendants sought a declaration that she was not a joint author, and the argument was that the court accepted was that Jay-Z had no intent to make her a joint authorship, so there was no shared intent to be joint authors. This is very similar to the issues I discussed in the Rent case previously. However, that did not dispose of the case because the court seemed to imply that irrespective of her being a joint author, she could have her own independent copyright interest in her particular recording, which kept the case alive. On that, it did not go to a jury. The parties wound up settling soon after that decision.
Now, if you want or need contracts like this, we have them in our site at samplekings.com. They're free. You can download the contracts. It's part of our helping out our members. It's easy to use, and what you should do is take the contracts to your lawyer and adjust it to the way you want to have it. Particularly a work-for-hire contract, and also your publishing, your co-publishing, and your songwriting contracts. This way you can also offer contracts to clients you want to sign or actually work with. It makes it easier. And one day, they might want to buy your catalog. You never know. Now, we're here to help you, of course. When you join, you can get lessons on any machine or software. I know them all. I do all the lessons. And I also do the mixing at samplekings.com. If you want me to mix a song for you and help you mix, we can mix together. We do everything through Zoom. That way it's easier for us and easier for you to work with me no matter where you are in the world. So any questions, hit me up at the bottom of this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.